Hello, this is The Conversation. I'm the executive director, Shannon Taylor, and I have my hands full tonight. I have with us, as you can see, a lovely pair of people who have been driving me crazy the entire day. I have the Honorable John Wilson from the Criminal Court in Brooklyn, and with him is a magnificent author, illustrator, who has with him come for the hothouse flowers, which I will show you momentarily. I have for you today the illustrations as well as the text, and for that purpose we have brought you the team of Wilson. And would you give your name, please? It's difficult.
Melina Cesarska.
One more time.
Melina Cesarska.
There you are. She's Ukrainian. If you expected me to know this after this day, it's going to be extremely difficult. And now I'm going to turn the program over directly to them to tell you about the book, Hothouse Flowers. We'll show you the book momentarily. And then I'll give you some introduction about our organization and the various programs that have been going on. Take it away, Judge Wilson.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm Judge John Wilson, and Melina and I have collaborated on a book called Hothouse Flowers. This is a children's book. Here it is. And I wrote the text. Melina did the illustrations for the book. Quite beautifully illustrated. In fact, one of the comments I hear most from people is complimenting the illustrations of the book. It's just a sample. This is a book that I wrote with the intention of trying to give parents the opportunity to instill patriotism in their children. My desire was to give parents the chance to discuss some broad issues with their children. One of the main objects of the book was to allow parents to discuss not letting problems grow to a point where you couldn't handle them anymore. The story is about a group of flowers that live within a hothouse, and there are flowers who live on the outside of the hothouse, and those flowers wish to gain entry to the hothouse. So the dandelion sends seeds, spores, into the hothouse where they begin to grow. Well, the flowers inside the hothouse don't quite know what to do about these newcomers, and so they are debating the issue endlessly while these dandelions continue to grow and grow, taking over all the resources of the hothouse. And in doing so, they come to a point where the flowers of the hothouse can no longer manage these flowers. And as such, the master of the hothouse has to return to salvage the hothouse, remove the dandelions, and set things aright. There are certain elements that involve a religious dimension to the book. There's also a parallel that, if you've heard about this book in the press at all, involves the issue of illegal immigration. And Shannon, I don't mind telling you, it's probably where I've heard the most criticism of the book is folks who have been mixing up the issues regarding immigration and illegal immigration. Maybe you've heard the press on this. There's been some comment that I'm anti-immigration. And of course, nothing can be further from the truth. I mean, here's my illustrator who is an immigrant from another country. Tell them a little bit about yourself, Melina.
I am from another country. I'm born in Ukraine, actually, and I've been living.
Speak louder.
And I've been living here for 15 years. So at some point of my life, I've been lucky enough to get a chance to illustrate such a wonderful book. It unfortunately doesn't happen very often in the life of an artist, but my 15 years here have been very fortunate. So I'm an example of immigration.
This is one of the illustrations early on in the book involving the hothouse.
I'll show the illustrations on my camera. It'll probably be a little easier if I show the illustrations to do justice to their beauty. For instance, here we go. It looks like we're ready for the Bahamas, but it's not quite. This is the flowers as they start out healthy. Am I right?
Yeah, the idea is that's supposed to be the outside of the hothouse, and that's one of the dandelions that sends the spores into the hothouse. Later on in the book, you can see probably what I think is one of the most beautiful illustrations is this one here, with the blue sky and the fan where the dandelion is sending off the spores. I think you have it there now. To me, that's probably the central image of the book, just a beautiful image that has led to so much commentary, people enjoying the art.
Marina, that's your work. Why don't you say if you had any messages to convey by the art, or whether you were under direction by the judge?
I think it was pretty clear direction, which I really kind of like and
Speak
enjoy.
up, speak up.
I think we have really great communication, and I mean, enjoy the whole process altogether. I mean, I've been very clearly, expressed what it could be, and then I've been given total freedom with my artistic expression, which is absolutely great. I mean, I really enjoyed the whole project. I mean, it was very, very, very pleasurable for me.
I can give you an idea of how we collaborated on this. Is after I had written the text and I was seeking an illustrator, I sent the text to Melina, and I had come up with sort of a storyboard of what I think it should look like, and then Melina came up with her own storyboard, and we found that so many of ideas were just the same sort of coalescence, that we were able to very quickly consolidate our ideas and produce a book that really reflected both of our visions.
Let me ask you, you brought up the issues in the beginning of immigration. Now, you were on our trip to Israel, and I saw this book in a very different light. Today is the week anniversary of the February 18th a shooting on the Empire State Building of a terrorist who has now been admitted, post-mortem, he's been admitted to have shot at some 20 people, killed some, wounded some, directly as a result of a political message. Not as a result of Prozac or as a result of losing money in the stock market, or as a result of depression or losing jobs, as originally put forth. A story, admittedly now, his daughter said was created by PLO propaganda, but because he was aiming his messages at the West and at Israel and so on, and what politically was aiming terrorism at all of us, at a tall building, as the jihadists and the Al-Qaeda were trying to do later on with 9/11. It was one in a series of the terrorist campaign. I was one of the very few at the time who said that at the time, and I was told by the police commissioner at the time and a few others that I didn't know what I was talking about. But of course I always know what I'm talking about. You're listening to people here who always know what they are talking about, and back then we were prophetic, and it is borne out 10 years later. Some people don't live that long, and I did, despite efforts by many people. And it's borne out that the truth came out, that this was a political message. It was a terror aimed at New York City and the United States and the West. Now, that message was clear to me and not to many others. The message in this book, which is admittedly a children's book, is not a message for children. It is a message for adults. But you are gearing your book to be read by apparently both children and adults, if I am correct. And the illustrations would normally be picked up as very pleasant illustrations with no hidden meaning, but you would have to have an adult with the child. I would imagine the age is under 10. You'd have to have an adult with the child go and discuss these issues with them. Am I right or am I wrong? And in context of Israel, do you see your message of this book in a context that has to do with the troubles that exist in Israel, or did that not play a part in it whatsoever?
Well, I'd have to say that to some level, you're right. Any good piece of children's literature should be geared so that both parents as well as children can get something from the book. Any children's movie that you've gone to recently should have a message for adults as well as for children. So I purposely wrote this book so that adults could gather a message from it, but the idea was to allow those adults to convey to their children what message they wanted to convey to them. I saw this as a book that you could read as a young child and see the very simple message of the flowers and how they protect themselves. And then as you get older and discuss these issues with your parents, you would learn more about the issues that face our world today. I did not myself see many of the issues that I've heard people come back and discuss with me regarding this book, including what you're talking about now with Israel. I had written this before we went on our trip to Israel in May. I can see the parallels, though, with many countries and the problems they're facing with a growing population of guest workers or illegal immigrants who are causing problems for a country and for the nature, the character of a territory. But I didn't think of it so much in terms of Israel and its problems, but I could see the book applying to the problems Israel is facing. I know when I went there, I was fascinated by how the news that you watch every night here in America just opened up before me. I actually was able to step into the map that you see in the news every night. And I thought it was one of not only the greatest learning experience I've had, but for me a profoundly religious experience. You know, being a Roman Catholic and being able to trod in a place where the Savior traveled, to me it was just very moving and very spiritual. So I'd written the book before that trip, but I take from that experience a hope that I can produce other children's books that reflect more of that experience.
Marina, you have right now a project with the MTA, not my favorite organization, the New York City Transit. Never something that I really ever got much benefit from, considering the resources and the manpower and the capabilities that it's vouchsafed to have in the city. Nevertheless, I depend upon it. You have a project with them regarding more of this wonderful artwork, and I look forward to finding a place I could contemplate it, because I'm always stressed out the moment I have to enter. And perhaps you can describe it to our audience.
Yes, absolutely. This is actually a project I've been working for a couple of years, and it's a really, I think, a very competitive assignment. So I've been very lucky to have a chance to do something like this, and been given a chance to do something like that. And my artwork hopefully will be on within 6 months on a Prospect Avenue station in Bronx. And the images of the artwork are very simple. They depict the views of the Bronx. So basically, in the situation which you described, when you're wandering around the platform and waiting for the train, you could actually relax, look at the very beautiful images, which are going to be done in a faceted glass. If you know what is a stained glass, this is just much stronger version of it. And the light goes through and shows all the beauty of the glass, which, you know, probably most of the people experience once they go to the church or some other places where they could see that. So it will be a really beautiful station. Also, 6 stations of the same line been renovated, and some of them already finished. And probably if you travel, you could see how much better the stations look like with the artwork. So I'm very happy to be part of that.
All right, now once more, I want to get your name correct here, because this is annoying me that I cannot get your name correct.
My name is Melina Sasarskaya.
No, Sasarskaya. But there's an A on the end of it.
Sasarskaya, right.
Yes, we don't pronounce that?
Yeah, you pronounce it.
All right.
If you want.
Pronounce it softly.
Yeah, you pronounce it so.
So it's Sasarskaya.
Right.
That's very operatic.
I don't know.
Sasarskaya. It's like in the Russian opera here with Tchaikovsky.
It's nice comparison. Thank you.
You know that there's Eugene Onegin, and there's a lot of this in Eugene Onegin, and Rimsky-Korsakov, Borodam, Sasarskaya. Once I get it right, I'm going to be saying this for the rest of the night, that together with the lovely artwork, I think I would do very good. All right, so
I don't think I could have done better for an illustrator than Marina. I'm so impressed with how she took my vision and just worked with it. You know, the scenario is supposed to work as the outside of the hothouse, kind of a desert, an empty place, with this beautiful hothouse in the middle of it, with these beautiful flowers. And so I think she conveyed that emptiness being filled by beauty just perfectly.
That's right. Marina, do you agree that mutually inspiration from the judge? Because this is a difficult message. This is a message where you have to convey two messages at the same time. You have to give to children, and you have to give to adults. You have to give an ordinary story about flowers, and you have to give a subliminal message. And you have to convey it with the attention children want, and with the subtext that the issues which are nation-shattering require. And yet you did not think that this is something that you should shy away from in any way?
No, I really enjoyed to work on that project. It was really, really interesting for me, you know, and also for years I've been looking to do something like that. It's really hard to come across. So I've been very fortunate. A friend of mine introduced me to John, and that's how it started, basically.
I've been noticing that some of the greatest support I'm receiving for this book is coming from legal immigrants. That I've seen comments on Amazon.com. The book is available on Amazon.com. And some of the commentary is coming from people who identify themselves as legal immigrants and who feel that they're insulted by the lack of differentiation between legal and illegal immigration that you often see in the media today. And while this book was not intended to be only about that particular issue, there is a parallel involving that issue of illegal immigration. And I accepted that parallel is there. It is today's problem. My intention was to write a work that was much broader, dealing with issues that face the human race every day and could face us 100 years from now. The main issue is one of having a problem that you let grow to a point where you just cannot control it anymore. But I've been very excited to have legal immigrants supporting the book so strongly, and I've been finding that most of the most vocal critics of the book are people who have clearly not read it and are picking the issue of immigration without differentiating between legal and illegal immigration for their own political purposes.
All right, this time I think it would be appropriate to hear from the Ukrainian on the panel as to immigration in general. Now, our organization, which is a not-for-profit organization, of course, of volunteers, and is based on having no agenda, really, except against hate, and has done programming for over 13 years, including occasionally on the issues of immigration, takes no issue or stance on this subject, and presents many authors throughout the last year that this program has been on. And Judge Wilson certainly has been on the front page of the New York Law Journal and has been reviewed throughout many magazines, mostly favorable. And where there has been criticism, it has been with, I believe, from my opinion, without regard to what exactly he's about in the book, because he certainly is a very distinguished jurist, and he has no marks against him whatsoever, no complaints against him as a jurist, and he's a close friend, and it's an honor and a privilege to call him so. And I wouldn't have him as a guest if I thought otherwise. But I certainly have varied positions personally on this issue, and the program is open to anyone with anyone's point of view on the issues of migration, immigration. We're a country of immigrants, and the Statue of Liberty is very well known for Emma Lazarus's famous words, "Give me you're tired and you're hungry and you're poor, and we'll do our best to keep them unemployed." That's just a joke. But we have had various times in this country's history where we have not honored the immigrant. By all means, and every wave of immigration has had tremendous difficulties. The Irish have been barred, the Jews have been barred, the African Americans have been made slaves, the Indians have been wiped out, and so on and so forth. The Italians suffered tremendous persecution, all as immigrants, each one having to climb a ladder. Some, of course, had to climb that ladder a lot longer than others. Hispanic community is now first really coming into its own, and I just saw a program on television about a very famous chemist, Percy Julian, who was very much involved in a very important commodity, soy, and had over 200 patents for which he received maybe $200, and was in his very old age before he was honored and given degrees and given recognition and a stamp in 1993 when he had his house bombed and firebombed. He was African American, and the black community has not had a very large portion of its great leaders recognized, and they were the only people who came here, of course, against their will. They did not come here willingly. Now, the Ukrainian community, part of the Asia Bloc, is something in modern times. And we're not speaking about Soviet Jewry, we're not speaking about the Chinese who helped build the railroads and then were buried alongside them. So I'd like to hear from Marina, not as an illustrator so much, but as a Ukrainian coming to this country, and your reflections on that.
I think actually, interestingly enough, it was a week ago a lecture about immigration people from Ukraine, and the woman who given the lecture said the last two waves of immigration was the economical immigration. It's not as described before, mostly political immigration for that particular reason. People immigrated for the economical reasons here, because the time I left Ukraine, it was still almost impossible to find basic food, and most of the people been really pushed to the point where what do you do when you're stuck in a situation where you have nothing to eat? I mean, it's really hard and complicated. So I came at this point in the history of Ukraine. Soviet Union already collapsed and Ukraine became independent, but in reality, independence doesn't put bread on your table right away. So, I know a lot of people my age who've been living in New York or all over the United States around 15 years. Most of the people who come, for those reasons or some kind of life circumstances bring them here. We are very different from another wave of immigration because it is a huge Ukrainian community which been formed after Second World War II. People who've been taken by Germans, they end up in Germany in the camps, and then who luckily have a chance to escape, they come here. So this is a core of Ukrainian immigration, and so this wave is very, very different and have a very different reasoning for being here than people who come later as I am. But it's always very interesting to interact and to see what's happening. Their kids are my age, and they become totally American. A lot of them don't speak any Ukrainian, and it's interesting for me to see what happens. I have a nephew here who's American, really. He speaks Ukrainian, but he doesn't know. It's a different experience. Grew up in another country, and actually, what's amazing about it, you could always compare, and appreciate how good it's here compared to other places, which is advantages.
If I could add something on this topic, not specific to the Ukrainian experience, but one of the problems with illegal immigration right now is the terrible exploitation of the illegal immigrant. Marina mentioned that much of the immigration, particularly the Ukrainian community, is economic immigration, people looking for a better life. I believe that's always been the experience of most immigrants, legal or illegal. The problem I'm seeing now is that a lot of the illegal immigrants are being exploited mercilessly. They're day laborers and some of the women being sold directly into sexual slavery upon their arrival here in America. And this is an intolerable situation. The construction industry has had a horrible increase in fatalities and in injuries, and it's just a national disgrace that illegal immigrants are being used extensively in the construction industry without safety equipment, without safety training, without union wage. It's the real element of the illegal immigration problem that I focus on when I think about this, that the people coming to this country not being given a fair opportunity to become Americans, to become what our grandfathers and grandmothers were, people who came here seeking a better opportunity. The exploitation of the illegal immigrants is what concerns me greatly.
Comments on this last illustration. It's at the close of the book. Now, if I was picking up this book, Hot House Flowers, by John Wilson, illustrations by Marina Sarskaya.
On Amazon.com.
And do you have a website?
No.
But if I saw this beautiful, I would think all is well with the world, and all has ended peacefully, and we've landed on the moon, maybe. I don't know. So give us your comments here.
I'd like to start with the text that's involved with that portion of the book. That actually is a very pivotal scene in the book. The flowers of the hothouse have now let the dandelions just take over everything. If I can read a little bit of the text that comes from that area of the book. Finally, there came a day when the orchid and the red rose and even the yellow rose were all too weak to speak or even stand up straight, for the dandelions had taken all the water and all the food and all the soil. It was then that the master of the hothouse returned to his indoor garden, and he was greatly disappointed with what he saw. Orchid, red rose, yellow rose, he called out, why have you let your soil and your water and your food be taken by these weeds? But the flowers of the hothouse were all too weak to tell him. See, in that scene, if you look at the roses, they're all very weak, and they're folding in on themselves. The image was to be of night. Nighttime is falling, and if you see this spot here, this is the doorway of the hothouse, where the master has arrived, bringing the light with him. And I must give full credit to Marina. While I had written the text for that, it was Marina who came up with the idea of setting that scene at night. So,
Well, I want to thank you both. We're almost out of time. Judge Wilson and Marina Sarskaya, and the Hot House Flowers on Amazon.com.
before we go, can I mention one thing? This book benefits the Michael Glover Scholarship